Hello, my name is Beth. I am a midwife, mum of four, and founder of the Bumps Baby Chapter. Welcome to Midwife at Your Cervix podcast. So in this episode, I wanted to go through some of my most asked questions that I get as a midwife. So I often do Q&As on my Instagram at the Bumps Baby Chapter. So I have used the questions from these to answer them all in this episode. So here we go. Will I poo in labour? So it's actually really, really normal for women to poo in labour. And as midwives, we actually get a little bit excited when we see poo come in because it means that baby is not far behind. So if you think about how close your vagina is to your back passage, if baby's head is moving down through your vagina, if you've got any poo in your back passage, then baby's head will just kind of push it out. And then also, obviously, you're pushing as well. You're pushing in the same way as if you were having a poo. So, yeah, it is really, really common. It is nothing to worry about. As midwives, we see it all the time. We are very discreet about it as well. So if you do a poo, then we would just catch it if you're in the water. So we would just scoop it out and then get rid of it. And then if you are lying on your side on the bed or on all fours or whatever position you're in, we would just move it away and get rid of it and nobody would know. The worst thing that you can do for yourself is to worry so much about pooing that it then prevents you from pushing. So just go for it and put that thought out of your mind, and then just focus on the fact that if you're feeling that way, it means that your baby is going to be in your arms really, really soon. I have reduced movements. What do I need to do? So if you are noticing in your pregnancy that you have got reduced movements or a change in your baby's movement pattern, then you need to call your maternity advice line or triage. You should have a number on the front of your notes that your midwife has said to you, this is the number that you need to call if you're worried about anything. And it is a kind of it will be a hospital-based number, so a triage or the maternity advice line. The first time you might feel your baby move may be 16 weeks. Some women feel it as late as around 20, 21 weeks, and this is all really normal. And in those early weeks, so around that time, 16, 20, 21 weeks, it can be quite sporadic when you feel baby move. So one day you might feel like you can feel those movements, and then the next day you might be thinking, I'm not sure if I have felt baby move today. And prior to 24 weeks, that is okay. So it can still be quite sporadic. But after the 24-week mark, you should really be feeling your baby move more and more each day. And then in your third trimester, movements stay the same. So you might notice that movements feel different, but the frequency and strength of your movements should still be the same in your third trimester. So if you ever notice that there's a change or a reduction, then you do need to call your maternity advice line. So what actually is hypnobirthing? So everybody explains hypnobirthing really differently. So for me, hypnobirthing is a type of birth preparation that focuses on how to keep yourself calm in labour or birth, cesarean birth, and also how to change your mindset surrounding birth. So you know how many negative birth stories there are around. It's conditioned in us from films, stories that we've heard as well, that giving birth is something to be scared of. It's really painful. It's often shown on telly as quite a dramatic, entertaining thing. And that's actually quite damaging to women, because then when it's our time to go into labour, we are filled with fear. And hypnobirthing is about changing that mindset and changing that attitude towards giving birth, and then learning things about your body, your hormones, your physiology, so that you can stack the odds in your favour for birth to go your way, and how to stay in control of your hormones, your oxytocin, reduce your adrenaline. Personally, I match hypnobirthing with antenatal education. I don't think that you can do one without the other, because if you're doing hypnobirthing, so you know how to keep yourself calm, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to know what is normal and what's not, which is what antenatal education provides. So personally, I think it's really important to combine antenatal education with hypnobirthing. What can I do to naturally induce labour? So there are some things that you can do from 34 weeks. So when I say from 34 weeks, I don't mean that you're going to start inducing your labour at 34 weeks. This is just something that can help you avoid an induction when you are due. So just because you're going to do these things now, it doesn't mean that baby is going to come at 34 weeks. So 6 dates a day from 34 weeks. Raspberry leaf tea as well. So raspberry leaf tea can be drunk if you haven't had any previous uterine surgery, such as a previous cesarean. And you can drink a cup a day from 34 weeks and then build it up to a few cups a day as you get closer to your due date. So raspberry leaf tea actually is something that we all say, including myself, as I just have, that it can be done to reduce your chances of having an induction. But actually the evidence supports it more for shortening your pushing stage of labour. So even if, and also helping your uterus get back to its pre-pregnancy size again postnatally. So the evidence points more to it helping for that. But there is lots of kind of anecdotal evidence that it helps with inducing labour. But either way, it's not going to harm having that raspberry leaf tea. So those are the two things you can do from 34 weeks. When you are due, so around your due date, clary sage. So again, this is something that you would only be advised to use if you didn't have any previous uterine surgery. Also, if you've had a previous quick labour before, or if you've got anything else going on in your pregnancy, then I would always just run it past your midwife first. But if you do choose to use clary sage is an essential oil, and you can either mix it with 10 mils of milk and then put it in your bath. So just a couple of drops in milk and then put it in your bath. The milk allows it to mix in with the water, because what you don't want is essential oil sitting on the surface of the water, because then it's neat on your skin, and that's not a good way to use essential oils. You could also mix it with 10 mils of oil, so any oil really that you have, olive oil, coconut oil. You can mix it with that, and then you can massage it. You can have a shoulder massage, you can rub it onto your bump, anything is fine. Or you can just put a couple of drops on a swab and just smell it. But the idea is that clary sage is a uterine stimulant, so it will encourage your uterus to contract. So that's clary sage. Also, you can sex. So sex increases your oxytocin, and also prostaglandins is found in sperm, and prostaglandins is the hormone that softens and ripens your cervix. I hate that word, actually, ripens. It's a bit grim, isn't it? But you know what I mean. It softens your cervix. So sex is another thing that you can do for that. So that increases your oxytocin, and the prostaglandins will soften your cervix. Nipple stimulation, again, increases your oxytocin. And then there's your other things as well, such as hot curry, fresh pineapple. These have less research, but again, it's kind of a bit fun to do. No harm in trying. Walking and curb walking as well. So going up, putting one foot on a curb and one foot on the road, and just like walking unevenly. Sideways steps, that's another way that you can try. These methods are to help baby kind of jiggle around in your cervix, in your pelvis, to fit nicely onto your cervix. So that's kind of helping with optimal fetal positioning. And then obviously walking, the gravity is helping put pressure. So baby's head is putting pressure on your cervix. So those are all some things that you can try. You can also just do nothing. So you can just sit and chill and read a book and watch some telly and just kind of nap and just really relax and switch off, because sometimes we put so much pressure on trying to get our babies out that we actually do the opposite thing and we raise our stress hormone in our body. And what we're telling our bodies at this time, if we're stressing and rushing around trying to get babies out, that we're not actually in a safe place to give birth. So sometimes if you feel like you've exhausted, all your sex and your nipple stimulation, your hot curries and all of that jazz, then just try a day of just doing nothing. And the worst thing that can happen with you doing nothing is that you just have a nice relaxing day before you meet your baby. Hey guys, I'm interrupting this podcast to talk to you about the sponsor of today's podcast, which is Elvie. Elvie is a brand that I really love for so many reasons. I also feel super lucky because they have given me a discount code to share exclusively with you all. So listen up. Elvie is a health and lifestyle brand that have developed smarter technology for women and, like me, are committed to empowering women by developing products aimed at improving their health and lives. Breastfeeding can feel like a full-time job, especially in those early days. Pumping milk can be a great way to share feeding with a partner or friends and family to give you, as a new mum, a break to either catch up on sleep or just have a well-deserved rest from feeding. The Elvie Stride is a cutting-edge breast pump from Elvie. It gives hospital-grade performance, yet is ultra-quiet. It allows you to pump hands-free by placing it in your bra, and it is lightweight enough to be comfortably worn under clothing, allowing you to pump whilst you go about your day. Such a lifesaver when you have a new baby in tow. Elvie are giving you 15% off the Elvie Stride until the end of July 2023 using the code BUMPTOBABY. That's BUMPTOBABY. This discount is not available in conjunction with any other offer. And let's get back to the pod. Do midwives care if I haven't shaved in labour? No. When I'm writing my notes, my birth notes, and I am, going over the labour and the birth, I could not tell you what your vagina looked like. I couldn't tell you if it was shaved. I couldn't tell you if you'd left a little tuft of hair. I could not remember at all. So no, we do not care. Whatever is most comfortable for you. The one thing I would say is that if you are going to shave, you've got to then think of your regrowth. And what you don't want is regrowth whilst you've got stitches, because that's just a bit messy for you. So yeah, as midwives, we don't care. I actually do get women who will say to me after, especially if they've come in, 35 weeks and had their baby at 35 weeks, they'll say, I have my wax booked in for next week, or I'm so sorry, I haven't shaved. And we don't care at all. And it's sad that as women we feel like, when we got to give birth, we got to have our vaginas and our vulva and our pubic hair looking a certain way. But don't worry about shaving at all. Just do what you feel is best for you. So what are some things that I can do that will reduce vaginal tearing? So there is a few things that you can do to reduce the chances of having a tear. And this is why I think that birth preparation is so important, because there is so many things that you can do to stack the odds in your favour for birth to go your way, such as, tearing. Loads of women want to reduce their chances of tearing, but there are so many women who actually don't want to even Google it or learn anything about it because they're so scared. And this is a prime example of why it's so important to learn things before. So number one, from 34 weeks, you can do perineal massage. So perineal massage is using some oil and you use your thumbs, and you put your thumbs about, like the top of your thumb depth into the vagina, and then you're pushing down and massaging down. So you go 2 thumbs down, and then you're just massaging that bottom bit of your vagina into your perineum. And you can do that a few times a week from 34 weeks. As you get bigger, it may be more challenging to do just because you've got a big bump in the way. So you may, if you feel comfortable asking your partner, then it's something that your partner can do as well. But just do it for a few minutes, a few times a week. So another thing that you can do, or you can put on your birth preferences for your to help reduce your tearing, is a warm compress. So a warm compress is something that your midwife can do for you when you are pushing. So she will get a warm swab, and then as you are pushing, she will use the warm swab on your perineum and guard your perineum as your baby's head is being born. And then on that note as well, communication with your midwife and slowly is also really important as well. So there will be a point in this pushing when your baby's head is being born that your midwife will say to you, don't push and just blow. And instead of doing almighty pushes, you want to just allow your body and allow your uterus to contract and without any effort from you. So you will just go, and so basically your uterus is doing all the work, and it means that your baby's head will just be born really, really slowly, allowing your perineum time to stretch. So I don't mean that this is what you will do from the moment you are pushing. It is literally like one contraction where you, instead of pushing, will just blow like a train. And that's just so the baby's head can be born really slowly. So yeah, those would be my top three things to do to put on your birth preferences, and then your perineal massage would be something you can do at 34 weeks. Oh, one other thing as well is your position. So this is one that is, I suppose, harder to do at that time because you want to prioritize what is best for you at that time when you are pushing. So you want to go more with your instincts rather than thinking, I need to be in a certain position because this is going to reduce my tearing. But if you are easy in whichever position you want to go in, then pushing on your left side is a position that frees up your pelvis. So you give your pelvis a lot of space to move, so your coccyx can move out of the way because you're on your side. But it also reduces the chances of tearing as well, and that's pushing on your left side. What are some things that I should be writing on my birth preference list? So I think the most important things to put on your birth preferences is the things that you want to communicate with your midwife, but you know that at that time when you're contracting, you are not going to be wanting to have, a full-on conversation. So it will be things like, I am using breathing techniques. I am counting in for 4. I'm breathing out for 7. If I feel like I'm losing control, or if I look like I'm losing control, please can you remind me of my breathing in for 4, out for 7. Or it could be your favorite birth affirmations, like, I am strong enough to walk whichever path my birth takes. So you could put your favorite birth affirmations on there so that your midwife can remind you of them again when you're feeling like you are losing control. Also, what your plan is for if you wanted to use a TENS machine, if you wanted to use essential oils, if you want to use water, if you want to be reminded to change position. So having sometimes what I have seen some women do is like have a scale. So they might put that number 1 is a TENS machine, number 2 is water, number 3 is gas and air, 4 is diamorphine, 5 is an epidural, or it could be number 1 epidural, number 2 gas and air, number 3 diamorphine, like you would put your preferences and what you would like for your pain relief. And then also I would put eBran, so the birth preference list that I have attached to the birth chapter online antenatal hypnobirthing course. eBran is like a big boxed off part of that, and that is something that is showing that to your midwife that you would like to know every time you're given a choice. You would like to know, is this an emergency? What are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? And what happens if I do nothing? So it's these things that are showing your midwife what type of birth you want. What can I say no to and what can I decline during birth? So the answer to that is everything and anything, basically. So you don't have to do anything that you don't want to. The choice is always up to you on the things that you are offered. But I would always encourage you to make sure that you are making an informed decision. What I don't want anybody to do is make a choice or decline something because of fear. Try and base your information or try and base your choice on weighing up the benefits, the risks, and the alternatives. And if you've looked at all of your choices and then you choose to decline it, then you should be supported in that decision. So I've had my 20-week scan and I have a low-lying placenta. Will I need to have a cesarean birth? So there is having a low-lying placenta at 20 weeks is fairly common. It is because your uterus is still quite small, and as the uterus grows, the placenta often then grows upwards with it, so moves out of the way. So 90% of those with a low-lying placenta at their 20-week scan, 90% of those will then move out the way. And if they've moved out the way, as long as there's like obviously nothing else that's indicating it, then your placenta will not be a reason for you to be advised to have a cesarean birth. If your placenta is still low-lying, then that will mean that you would need to have a conversation with your consultant obstetrician or your obstetrician doctor in the best choice of birth for you. And a cesarean birth will be offered to you and discussed with you for those with a low-lying placenta after 36 weeks. If I can't have a water birth, can I still use water during my birth? So I would encourage everybody to at least consider using water at some form during their birth, because water is such a good therapy. I mean, how many times when you are, if you've got a bad back or if you're feeling crampy or, you've just like even done a bit of exercise and your body aches, a lot of us turn to water for that. So water is a great form of relaxation as well as soothing our muscles and our body. So if you are advised against going into a birth pool, then you can still have use a bath or a shower whilst you're at home. And then when you get into hospital, you can have still a shower, a bath if there is one available to you. So often we have CTG monitors, and the CTG monitors are, have to check with your local hospital, but a lot of them can still be used in water. And then also consider things as well, such as hot water bottles, but also, like cold flannels, cold water sprays as well. I would encourage you to use, the heatness from water, but also coldness as well. When will I know where I am going to give birth? So when you have your 36-week appointment with either your midwife or an obstetrician. So if you've had a midwife-led pregnancy, then you will see a midwife at 36 weeks. And it will be at this appointment that you and your midwife will have a discussion about your birth preferences And including in this birth preferences will be where you, what they advise you give birth. So that could be a midwife-led unit, a home birth, or a consultant-led unit. And then this will be very much a discussion. So you may say, I really want a home birth, or you may say, I really want to be on the labour ward because I know I would like an epidural. So there is very much an open discussion between you and your midwife in what suits you and your pregnancy best. If you are seeing a consultant, then you will see an obstetrician at, again, 36 weeks. And it will be at this appointment that your obstetrician will say, this is what we advise. And this could be, a cesarean birth, a birth on a labour ward again, so a consultant-led birth. It could be a home birth, and it could also be a midwife-led unit. So just because you're consultant-led doesn't mean that you have to go to a consultant-led unit. Often your pregnancy may be needing input from an obstetrician, but maybe your birth doesn't. So it would very much be an open discussion at that time. And I would always encourage you that if you're not quite seeing eye to eye with your obstetrician, then it is still your choice. So you can still say, what are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? And you can then still say, I would still like to birth here, wherever that may be. I know that's not what you advise, but how will you support me in birthing in this place? So it should very much be an open discussion, and ultimately it is your decision. My baby is breached and I'm 28 weeks. How do I get my baby to turn? So firstly, it is really common for babies to be breached, especially in your first, second trimester. And that's because at this side of your pregnancy, your baby still has lots of room to turn. So it is really normal to have a scan or have your midwife palpate your tummy at, for example, 28, 30 weeks, and your midwife say, oh, your baby is breached. That doesn't mean that your baby is still going to be breached the whole way, because there is still plenty of time for your baby to move around. As you get around like 32, 34 weeks, your baby's head becomes the heaviest part of your baby's body, which then naturally, because of, how we stand, it naturally encourages baby to turn into that head down position. So you may not have to do anything, and your baby will just turn into the head down position by his or herself. So if you're around the 34-week mark and your baby is breached, then if it is suitable for you, and I would discuss this with your midwife first, then you could try some positions such as the forward leaning inversion, where you put you're kneeling on a sofa and then your head is on the floor. So you're like upside down. And this is something that can be used to spin your baby from a breech position into a head position. And then there is also something called moxibustion as well, which is a mixture of acupuncture and Chinese herbs. You will need to find a moxibustion practitioner in your area. And again, they will discuss with you whether it's appropriate for you before going ahead with it. But that is actually something that is supported by evidence as well. So there is evidence to support moxibustion. And you will, if your baby is breached around the 34-week time, then your midwife will refer you for what's called a presentation scan. And this is where you will just have a scan, usually around the 36-week mark, 36, 37-week mark, to determine which way your baby is facing. If your baby is breached on the presentation scan, your obstetrician will talk to you about your options, and your options would be an ECV, which is called an external cephalic version. And this is where a doctor or a specifically trained midwife will turn your baby. So they'll have a scan machine there, some gas and air as well, and they will turn your baby using their hands on the outside of your bump, or I should say attempt to turn your baby, the success rate is around 50%. Your other options would be a vaginal breech birth or an elective cesarean birth. And these would all be options that you would need to discuss with your obstetrician. So obviously there was loads of questions there that has been covered with a vast variety of different topics. And for me, it is really important to give you as much information as possible for your pregnancy and most importantly for your birth as well. There is so much fear and uncertainty and overwhelm surrounding birth, and it doesn't have to be like that. Like, you can go into your birth feeling confident and empowered and know that you have the tools in your birth to stack the odds in your favor for you to get the birth that you want, but then also feel calm and in control in all different birth situations as well. And that there is literally my my jam. That's my jam because I love birth. It's definitely my thing, trying to help women feel more prepared for their birth. So that's what the online antenatal and hypnobirthing course is all about. It has got loads of things in there, from how to cope with your contractions, what are contractions, what are the tools that you can have for dealing with contractions, how to keep an induction of labour calm, how to keep a cesarean birth calm. And then there's lots of things in there as well to do with your mindset, your hypnobirthing, and what you can do to make yourself feel calmer in your pregnancy and how that is going to have an impact on your birth as well. So that's all in the birth chapter, which is an online antenatal and hypnobirthing course with me, midwife Beth. It is important to remember that knowledge is power. Ignorance is bliss does not work when it comes to giving birth. So thanks for listening to my Midwife at Your Cervix Q&A episode. Remember to follow and rate if you enjoyed listening.